Ashtoto Shruta Shishanati, Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki, Anta Goti Vaishnava ki, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki, Sako Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana ki, Shri Vrindavan Dhami ki, Shri Madhura Dhami ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dhami ki, Shri Ayodhya Dhami ki, Shri Mayapur ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Ganga Devi ki, Jamuna Maya ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaurapamanandi. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Guru Shri Guru.
The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opened my dark eyes and filled my heart with expansive knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth, from him saturated enemies. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing the sky Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the whole and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Fill me with all of the three worlds. We take shelter at your feet.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hari Jaya Ratama Tava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chandava Sapa Girivaratari Yashodanandan Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachariya Yamuna Tira Vanachariya Jayarata Madhava Kunjabiyari Jayarata Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Radhe Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Goranitai 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 Jaya Goranitai Jaya Goranitai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya 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 Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jaya Asatutta Sarais Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jaya Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jaya Prem Se Guru Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jaya Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jaya Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jaya Mayapur Navadvip Dhama Ki Jaya Ganga Maya Yamuna Maya Ki Jaya Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jaya Shri Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jaya Sankirtan Yogya Ki Jaya Nitai Go Premanandi All glories to the Sangha devotees All glories to the Sangha devotees All glories to the Sangha devotees All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Guru Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Been away for a long, long time. I feel, just excuse me, I have this breathlessness problem, so please forgive me, I'm heaving. So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8, text number 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Evam Saraswatim Vyasam Jayam Mudirayat Astaprayeshu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistake Udapratam Vishwam Idam Tadasit Yanitraya Milta Jannaya Milayat Ahindratalpi Dishayana Ekam Kritakshana Svatma Rato Niriya Udaplutam Vishwam Idam Tadasit Nanitraya Militajan Nayamilayat Mahindratalpi Dishayana Eka Kritakshana Svatma Rato Niriha Udaplutam Vishwam Idam Tadasit Yanitrayan Milata Jannaya Milayat Indratalpi Disayana Eka Kritakshana Svatma Rato Niriha Ladies, please. Vidaplutam Vishwam Idam Tadasit Yanitrayamita Ahindratape Dishayane Eka Kritakshana Svatma Rato Niriha Uda water Aplutam submerged in Vishwam the three worlds Idam this Tada at that time Asit it so remained Yat in which Nidraya in slumber Amlita closed Trick eyes Nayam Milayat not completely closed by Indra the great lake Ananta the great snake Ananta Talpi on the bed of Adishyayana lying on Eka Kritakshana, being engaged. Svatma, Ratu, enjoying in his internal potency. Nirya, without any part of external energy. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At that time, when the three worlds were submerged in water, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedstead. The great snake Ananta, and although he appeared to be in slumber, in his own internal potency, free from the action of the external energy, his eyes were not completely closed. Please repeat. At that time, when the three worlds were submerged in water, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedstead. The great snake Ananta, and although he appeared to be in slumber, in his own internal potency, free from the action of the external energy, his eyes were not completely closed. It's a little purport, only 3 lines. I don't know, I'm going to give a class on this, but I'm no pundit. I'm no big philosopher, so you have to bear with me and give me your blessings. The Lord is eternally enjoying transcendental bliss by his internal potency, whereas the external potency is suspended during the time of desolation of the cosmic manifestation. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militanjena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakara Mayam Daratis Padantikam Mandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunatam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah. I just wanted to say that it's not etiquette for me to sit here and give class. Honestly, we've got 2 very exalted personalities. We've got Mother Guru, it's actually Prabhupada disciple, Astasaki, and also other, very elevated personalities. So I seek the blessings and hope to say something worthwhile today. I'm not a very big scholar. I'm just speaking from my head, whatever is there. So please forgive me. We had some really beautiful speaker, Kartik Chandra. I don't know how the words come, but Prabhupada did say, if someone speaks so eloquently, speaks so nicely about Krishna, and you want to sit and listen all day in rapt attention, then Krishna is actually speaking through them. They empowered souls. So when I listened to Kartik Chandra's class on Friday, I thought, this is way beyond, So much memory, memorizing all the names, the times, the places. And also on Sunday, Govinda gave a beautiful class too. So just forgive me, Hare Krishna. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk, because I missed a lot of things away for so long. I'm going to talk because this chapter here is talking about the creation, but at the same time about Guru Parampara, disciplic succession, how we should absorb and internalize our activities. How, like here, Krishna, Garbhodaksha Vishnu is enjoying, is in bliss, complete bliss, just by going into his internal activities. So we have to think about it. I'm just going to speak a little bit about Maitreya. So just like now I'm saying, I have in the audience some really highly elevated, exalted devotees. And Uddhava, he didn't want to answer Maitreya's question when he was asked a few questions. So he said, better you go to Maitreya. Maitreya can give you all the answers to your questions. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Maitreya and Vidura, and then carry on like that a little bit from the previous text, and then come to today's, where did I leave my? So now I just went to like a little bit in text 1. The Maitreya is continuing to speak to Vidura. So in the first text, it explains how Maitreya is feeling great bliss inside. He's feeling pleasure. So much pleasure talking to Vidura, answering Vidura's question. Because Vidura is actually a very, what word should I use, is so absorbed in what Maitreya is, very receptive listener. If I'm speaking to somebody and they're looking all over the place and they're looking at the phone, I won't feel very happy speaking. And likewise, the speaker won't feel happy and the listener won't feel happy. There's no connection, there's no reciprocation there. So because Vidura was so respectful and so receptive to the answers of Maitreya, and Maitreya saw him as his own son and was very happy to impart knowledge. And also, Vidura wasn't from an ordinary background. We know that Vidura, in his previous birth, he was Indra, right? And he came from a royal dynasty, actually, from the Puru dynasty. And because of that, he was glorious, because that lineage, they were glorious because they were worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They didn't have any attachment for the impersonal Brahman or the localized Paramatma. They all worshipped Bhagavan. And this is also the teaching of our Srila Prabhupada. He always says to us how God is a person. He has a name, he has form, he has qualities, he has pastimes. So this is how he mentioned to us that it's dangerous to speak to Mayavadis or impersonalists. So Maitreya here is imparting this Vidura, this knowledge, and this Bhagavad Purana is also known to him by his spiritual master, Parashara Muni. So we can see how this disciplic succession is a descending knowledge, not ascending. So, and it's coming in a perfect line, and the recipient is listening, absorbing, and then they in turn pass the message, like how Srila Prabhupada listened from his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Gaur Kishore Das, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, as we can see, our great parampara here, how the line is being continued. And as I was mentioning about Kartik Chandra on Friday, he gave all the names, he gave all the details, the times, the place. He went into so much depth about the lineage that I'm going to skip all that. I've got no brain for that. So it was spoken to the great sages who then passed it down to enlighten those, to benefit those who are entangled in extreme miseries for the sake of little pleasure. So I just want to read a little bit, because our movement, our philosophy, our education, knowledge is all repetition of what we heard. Over and over and over again, Prabhupada used to say, I'm a spirit soul, I'm not this body. You're a spirit soul, you're not this body. Over and over. So repetition is a good thing, because in the material world we have so many things to think of. And in order to digest something, it has to be spoken over and over again. So here, I just wanted to read text 2, the miseries that we suffer in this material world. Here it says that the sage Vidura proposed to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam because it was especially compiled and traditionally come down in the disciplic succession for the solution of all problems of human society. Only one who is fortunate can have the opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotee of the Lord. So sometimes we take it for granted, because we may come to the temple every day, we go home, we associate with the devotees all the time, we're taking prasadam, and the core message, it just slips our mind. We forget that, it explains how important, how fortunate we are to be here in the association of devotees, because this is the highest. And as living entities, we experience internal pleasure and we experience external pleasure. The only reason we situated like this in this material world, because of our ignorance. We failed to see that the Supreme Lord is the controller, the doer, the maintainer, the creator, the everything. He's everything. We forgot that we were servants serving the Supreme Lord. Hence, we landed ourselves covered by this material energy. But we can also enjoy this internal pleasure like the Supreme Lord. We just need to move our vision to the spiritual activities of Krishna. And we don't have any excuses. Everything is there. We don't even have to do anything. We don't have to write poems. We don't have to write songs. We don't have to write books. Vedic scriptures, it's all there on a plate for us. All we need to do is help ourselves to this knowledge. And that's the internal pleasure we give. And we'll talk a little more later about how Garbhodaksha Vishnu is lying on this bed, Anantashesh, and how he's experiencing eternal bliss, just lying there with his eyes half closed. So I'll read a little more here. Under the spell of material energy, the living entities are entrapped in the bondage of many difficulties simply for the sake of a little bit of material happiness. They engage in fruitive activities not knowing the implications, under the false impression that the body is the self. The living entities foolishly relate to so many false attachments. They think that they can engage with materialistic paraphernalia forever. This gross misconception of life is so strong that a person suffers continually, life after life, under the external energy of the Lord. If one comes in contact with the book Bhagavata, as well as with the devotee Bhagavata, who knows what the Bhagavatam is, then such a fortunate man gets out of the material entanglement. Therefore, Sri Maitreya Muni, out of compassion for the suffering men in the world, proposed to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, first and last. So that is beautiful. Just a reminder for our suffering, because we're always looking for happiness in this material world. Even as devotees, we're looking for that happiness, although internally we experience some bliss. Still, we want to go on a holiday, we want to do this, we're still searching for that happiness. But at least we know that Krishna is in our heart as the super soul. And if we pray sincerely and worship him, then he will give us direction, and in due course of time, we would somehow go back home, back to Godhead. So we'll just continue. In order to establish ourselves for wanting to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, we have to have faith. The stories that we're reading here is not imaginary. They're real stories. They're real stories. How do we know that they're real stories? Can anyone say, how do we know they're real stories? Someone may argue, like one time my brother-in-law, he was reading my husband's brother. He read Krishna book. Somehow he just picked it up and he read Krishna book. And he chose the story of Putana. I don't know why he chose that story, but that's the story he read. He's not a devotee. He's almost like an atheist because he doesn't go to church. But he read the story and he said to us, he said, I think you guys are in cuckoo land. And I said, why? He said, do you believe that a woman can be 8 miles long? Was she 8 miles long, Putana? When she fell, all the trees were falling one on top of the other. She was like 14 miles long. So he said, how is it possible you can believe such a thing? So here, it's very important for devotees. I know the subjects that matters are sometimes so esoteric and elevated. Even for devotees, it's very difficult to digest. So somehow we have to pray for the mercy, pray to Krishna for the mercy, that we can understand at least a little bit. We have to develop faith and conviction that the authorities of the Supreme Lord and his associates are not imaginary, but they're personal. And these things, these stories took place millions of years ago. And Prabhupada says, actually, from time immemorial. It's not much, more than millions of years. Therefore, this knowledge is called Sanatana Dharma. It's an eternal religion. There's no time. These are real stories. So how do we know that these are real stories? Then in chapter 5 of this same verse, the great sages, through their mystic powers, were able to float down. This we have to believe as well. That with their mystic powers, they are able to float down to the lower regions from Satyaloka to the celestial, through the celestial river Ganges. Their heads were wet. How would their heads be wet, if they're not persons? Their heads were wet, means that they were moistened by the sacred water coming from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Anyone taking a bath in the Ganges has all his sins eradicated. But if one continues to sin, irrespective of taking a bath, then one is considered like an elephant. Elephant, the example is given there of an elephant. It goes in, takes a nice bath, comes out and lands, sprays sand all over. So it's not like, once we take a bath in the Ganges with pure souls, we cannot commit sins again. So we have to be careful about that. And so in order to purify ourselves and get rid, to purify ourselves and make advancement in our own Krishna consciousness, the word Uttama Shloka is word. Uttama Shloka. Uttama Shloka means that the Supreme Lord is worshipped with selected words by devotees. So as I was saying before, we don't have to write poems, write songs, do all these things. Everything is there. We chant the first prayer we chant in the morning, that's there already, given to us by, this is our courtroom Acharya. Vishwanath Chakravarti, yeah, that's the first. We didn't compose the song, Vishwanath Chakravarti composed, and we sing that song every day in the morning, Mangalarti first, invoking the mercy and the potency of the spiritual master to give us, some insight about how to go about making advancement in our own lives. So we also chant various other prayers and beg for the mercy, glorify the Lord with love and devotion. So this parampara system, this disciplic succession is so very important. We've got so many, I didn't write anything about Narottam Das Thakur, today is his appearance day, right? Lochan. I didn't write anything about him. But they left so many, even Narottam Das Thakur as well, so many beautiful songs, imploring the association of exalted devotees and glorifying the Lord. Srila Prabhupada explains in text 7 that unless one hears from proper authority, one cannot become a preacher. We have to hear, absorb, understand, and then we'll be able to give the message to others. And the process of devotional service, this hearing and chanting, is the most important. Without this, one cannot preach the message of Vedic knowledge. And on Sunday, Govinda gave a class, and there was a question, actually. There was a question by Keshava Maharaj. He was asking why Smaranam is not is not given so much emphasis from the 9 processes of devotional service. There are a lot of beautiful answers, but for me, Smaranam is connected to hearing and chanting. If you hear and chant, obviously you're going to remember. The verse 1865, explain, is it 65, 66? Man mana baba mad bhakto. Krishna. Always remember, always worship me, offer your homage to me. Krishna says very clear, man mana baba mad bhakto majyaji mam namaskaro. Mam eva syasi satyam te prajani priyosame. That if you offer, see how my memory is, always think of me, offer your homage, offer your respects. Thus you would come to me without fail because you are my very dear friend. Priyosame means very dear friend. Krishna in the whole of the Bhagavad Gita is promising us so many things. He's promising us. Sarvadaman parijjaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papibhyo mukshe sami masuja. Srila Prabhupada mentioned these 2 verses also in his lecture yesterday. And if we can really take these verses seriously, we're on the way, on the way back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada said, what 4 things you have to do? Association with devotees, taking prasadam, this hearing and chanting. Is that right? How we can, stick to the path and go back home. So we have to be... so the answers were beautiful. It's hard to disconnect, remembering from hearing and chanting. So all those stories in Krishna book, this is what Garbhodaksha vision in the causal ocean. He's blissful. is enjoying great pleasure from his internal potency. He doesn't have to look outside because everything else is held in suspension. In this word, Maitreya continues to speak, how the three worlds, Satyaloka, the middle, lower planets, they're all submerged in water. They were invisible, you couldn't see them. And the only planet that was there, the only universe that was there, where it says Eka, alone in this one universe, was the Lord. Garbhodaksha Vishnu was lying on Anantashairs, enjoying, and actually he didn't have his eyes completely closed, his eyes was half open. He can observe outside and he can enjoy from inside. So, but he was the only one with Anantashairs at this time, which means he was completely conscious of what was going on externally and internally. But here it explains how he's enjoying transcendental bliss by his internal potency. Garbhodaksha Vishnu is not feeling bored. Sometimes, we sometimes feel bored in our services, actually. When we put in the kitchen, we want to be in the garden, or we want to do pujari service, or everyone wants to do pujari service. Or, most people, they want to take Raman, they want to dress the deities, serve the deities. And sometimes cleaning is like an austerity for devotees, So, but like this, but the Supreme Lord was on a level of transcendence, free of all contamination. The Lord is experiencing pleasure from within, internally. And these are all examples for us to gradually rise to that platform of transcendence through the 9 processes of devotional service, of which hearing and chanting is the first and foremost for purifying the heart of all impurities. I always try to remember the first of the Shiksastakam, the first verse, Chaito Darpanam Marjanam, Bhava Mahadevagni Nirvapanam, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vityaranam, Vidyovadu Jivanam. So this chanting is so vitally important. It extinguishes the fire of the blazing fire of material existence. Powerful. Sometimes we underestimate the power of the holy name. Actually, the more we chant, the more we'll want to chant. Sometimes we chant a few rounds, we put our beat down, chant a few rounds. But just try to focus the mind and chant really seriously. I don't know, when you chant, the more you feel like you want to chant. So try it. I think Prabhupada, he challenged somebody about chanting rounds, to do it. I can't remember what that was. Of course, we don't want to be too boring. We also enjoy internal bliss when we're doing the right things. Of course, we experience like taking prasadam with devotees, associating with devotees, hearing and chanting, sometimes kirtan melas, kirtan ras. We're having New Year's Eve celebration. They'll be chanting from midnight. If you sit there and absorb yourself, you can feel internal bliss. It's beautiful because your mind is focused and absorbed in the holy name, and it's beautiful. So it's not all boring if our focus is in the right place. And especially when we're chanting in the presence of exalted personalities, then the soul, we, within ourselves can feel great bliss. One has to go deep within oneself. We have to learn how to go deep. Gaur Govinda Swami, when he was giving class 1, he said, if you have to dig deep. If you go to the shallow surface, you'll only catch fish. It's funny. So we have to go deep within ourselves to, experience something. So the core element of Srimad Bhagavatam is that God is a person. We have to understand that Krishna, God, is a person. He has he has name, fame, qualities, pastimes. His pastime is all there for us to read, for us to hear, in order to purify our existence and try and not take birth again in this material world. Okay, in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.3.34, Srila Prabhupada gives full explanation of external potency. He says that which manifests this material world, the external potency, and the internal potency manifests the spiritual world, which the Supreme Lord Himself is enjoying while lying on Ananta. Internal potency, the marginal potency, is the living entities who are mixture of internal and external, only because of their contact with material energy. So somehow we have to focus our mind. It's very difficult, but if we focus our mind on what Srila Prabhupada has given us, chant 16 rounds, take prasadam, associate with the devotees, and read and chant, then somehow or other we can minimize our materialistic activities, in due course of time, achieve the goal. I'll stop here if anyone wants to add anything or ask a question. Astasaki Prabhu.
Very nice class.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind.
You were speaking about earlier on about repetition.
Yep.
And I just wanted to make a comment about that, especially for new devotees, even for older devotees. We read the same books all the time. We read the same verses all the time. And there's a reason that all that we read and all that we hear, there is a saying that is very important, and that is that everything is ever fresh. So, in some of our books, Krishnadas Kaviraj has put a covering over it. And why has he put a covering over the book? He has put a covering over it because as we become more sincere, develop more faith, like she said, become more sincere, more honest, and there is no action in where he's lying with the external energy, because with external energy there is action at every moment. So in our lives we have to have faith, honesty, sincerity, action. And as we read and continue to develop this love and greed to serve the Lord, which is our constitutional position, then these coverings begin to become removed. And that is called realization. And the realization comes from the heart of your Guru. And ultimately from Srila Prabhupada, from our Guru Vag. So when you're ready, these coverings will be removed. I was once on Parikaram with some young devotees in India, and I said, we're going to visit this particular place. And one young man, he said, oh, I've been there, I've done that, I've already done it, I don't need to go again. And I turned round to him and I said, oh, has that pastime manifested in your heart? Is it rolling in your heart? And he went, no. I said, well, that's why we need to go. And this is why we need to continually hear Krishna book, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. I mean, I've been reading maybe 15 times in my life, Bhagavad Gita. I can't now get past the second chapter, practically, because when I read about Bhishma, I'm just crying all day. I have to pull away. Oh my goodness, I can't get anything done. What happens is that everything is ever fresh, and knowledge is being released to us with realization from Guru. So this is not just an ordinary going to a library, reading books and just obtaining knowledge. It is about obtaining realization from that knowledge and having the coverings removed, having realization come into the heart from Guru, because he's recognizing everything you're doing. And then there is total joy and love in the heart at every moment. So we have so much to look forward to. And you expressed everything beautifully.
Oh, thank you so
I am
much.
really impressed. Thank you to my little girl.
You're sitting there.
I
That's
know,
your
honestly, she was a
mercy.
little girl. Yeah. And,
Thank you
Thank you.
so much for that comment.
Bless you.
Okay, anyone? Okay. Anyone else has anything? Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Sorry.
I have a question which may sound a little bit strange.
Yeah.
In the material world, our knowledge and experience of snakes,
Snakes, yeah.
are not pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Snakes are always portrayed as demonic,
Mm-hmm.
as harmful, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I've often wondered, why does Anantashesh assume this form of a multi-hooded snake?
Right.
Any comment on that?
Yeah, it's explained that to compare the material world with the spiritual world is very dangerous. The material world is temporary, and it's a direct replica of the spiritual world. And those snakes are the story, you know, how the snakes came about when Lord Shiva drank the poison. It's called Nilakanta, and then some of the poison dropped. And then the scorpions came about, snakes, you know, like that came about. But the associates of Krishna, his servants, they take particular forms. Garuda, he's carrying the Supreme Lord Vishnu on his back. But he's a carnivore, right? He eats snakes. So there's no comparison. It is very dangerous to compare the spiritual world with the material world. Yeah, any other answers? You got any answers to that? He mentioned that why Ananta is in the form of a snake. He's Balaram as well, you know that he takes so many different forms. Why is, because the snake in the material world is considered like very dangerous and like nasty, you know, it bites for no reason. So why is he the bedstead of Krishna, basically? Why in the form of a snake, which is not liked in the material world? I mean, I said that it's dangerous to compare the material world with the spiritual world. It's transcendental. That's Krishna's internal pastimes or associates that are his servants. Whereas in the material world, everything like grows, remains for some time, dwindles and die. Everything is temporary. You got an answer? Or?
When Krishna comes to perform his pastimes with the Krishna book, etc., he comes as Aghasura. Aghasura is a demon, but he comes. So every one of those pastimes also represents an anarta in us.
Mm-hmm.
And that anarta, by reading the Krishna book, it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Putana, all the anartas that we hold, anger, lust, everything. So every one of those pastimes is meant to remove and help to remove an anarta. So everything that Krishna appears as in all the incarnations and in every way, there is an underlying, very deep, internal spiritual meaning for our benefit. And, snakes are very slithery, very tricky. And you could say, Krishna, he is in all his pastimes, and to know him as a person, he's very tricky. He's, he can cheat you, very, he can cheat you, he can do all kinds of things. But it's for our benefit, and usually for our anartas. So I'm not quite understanding the question, because I've got very bad hearing with no hearing aid. But all I know is that everything that happens, every incarnation, every appearance of Krishna is for us to enable us to overcome all deep anartas. And deep understanding, and also to get to know Krishna. Krishna has to, like Bhaktivedanta, it wasn't for any just unknown reason that he said this is the world of the cheated, the cheated. He was a magistrate, so he used it quite often. This is the world of the cheated, of the cheaters, of the cheated. And Krishna, he can cheat people.
Yeah.
But how does he do it in his pastimes, with his parents stealing? He was a thief, he stole the butter, but he also stole Radharani's heart, Shrimati Radhika's heart. She stole his heart first, and his Hari. And he goes to look for his heart and finds it with her. And the whole Hare Krishna mantra becomes Hare. It's where Krishna finds his heart. Everything is on a deep level of understanding about us, our journey, and Krishna is perfect. My daughter's doing a medical degree at the moment, and they had to open a body. Somebody left their body and they donated it to science. And the unbelievable science of the body, the medical world can't even fathom out everything. Hare Krishna Das just wrote a book all about the science of the chaos of this material world, destroying Darwin's theory completely. So everything in this world is so, coming from Krishna, is so amazing. I mean, we're like a little frog in a well.
Yeah.
To actually see the whole big picture. But it's very good to question these things, to get a deeper answer on all these things. I haven't given it today, but maybe when Shivaram comes, he can go a bit deeper.
Thank you,
anyway,
thank you so much. Yeah, and plus the snakes here, they haven't got thousands and thousands of hoods. Ananta Shesh, he's got thousands of hoods, you know, hearing and chanting Vishnu, Krishna's names, unlimitedly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And eyes to watch everything.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanande. Hare Krishna.